Are you filled with fear, doubt, worry about the future of our country? Do you feel the urgency to act before it's too late? If yes, then this podcast is for you. It's time for us to confront the critical issues threatening our nation's fabric, our democracy itself, regardless of our political stance. If you are ready to face reality, handle the tough questions, and find real solutions, then here's your host, Debilyn.
Welcome to the Terrified Nation podcast. I'm your host, Debilyn. Can we save our country? That's what we're exploring in this podcast series. And for me, the answer is a resounding yes, we can. And we must. But maybe we need to save ourselves first. So this show is where we explore alternatives to being afraid. And today, we're going to add alternatives to managing depression and loneliness. Now, every week we are offered new perspectives and framing about what is really going on. And together we learn how to manage our fear, our anger, our rage. And we acknowledge our worry that it may never get better, or at least that's what we're afraid of. So together we are going to learn how to find hope in a world that seems crazy. Because it's up to us, the citizens of this great, flawed, and beautiful nation, to live into the promise of our founders, each of us dedicating ourselves to a better future. I like to start each show with a question that we'll explore together. Today's question is, are depression and loneliness the same thing? And does it matter? Each one of us has a story to tell. If we're fortunate, that story flows easily from our hearts to be shared with our loved ones or the world. And in a way, our entire reality is made up of our stories about our childhood or about our children. Our stories are about love and family. Even our stories about money shape what we believe is and isn't possible at any given moment. Now, most of the time we think of the reality is real and it's out there in a world that we share, somehow separate from our true selves. And this sense of separation makes us unique individuals, each one of us a special gift to the world. So let's do the math. There are 9 billion unique humans living on the planet. There are countless other living beings among us, all the animals and bugs and fish. Plus, there's the materials that make up the planet itself. It is mind-boggling and mystifying how we navigate life with all this complexity. And when one feels outside of it, not part of life, but an observer to it, depression can set in. At least it does for me. So depression is a sense that life is filled with suffering and it will never change. The future is set to more of the same. And how much creativity do we lose? What makes it hard to shift gears, to be in the flow of life? I know that for me, writing while depressed is hard. And it's only as one begins to emerge that sharing stories becomes possible again. Is this lack of connection to life also called loneliness? And if so, is connection the prescription to cure it? Well, as I muse with you here today, I am emerging from depression in my own sense that no one cares. Until now, I hadn't really questioned if I was lonely. And I'm still not sure that I am. Am I depressed because I'm in a transition and I'm unsure where I fit in and how I'll make a living? Of course. I'm afraid that I won't be able to support myself from the coaching and podcasting direction I've outlined because no one cares. Now, this story that no one cares is my stupid thinking that occurs when I can't do things all by myself. Our culture praises rugged individualism, and this story is very toxic. It's also not true about how society works. The stories I tell myself could use an upgrade, and I'm working on that. But am I lonely? Well, I ran across this poem on social media. It's called Friendship, and it was written by Dinah Maria Craik in her book, A Life for a Life, in 1859. Here's the poem. Oh, the comfort, the inexpressible comfort of feeling safe with a person, having neither to weigh thoughts nor measure words, but pouring them all right out just as they are, chaff and grain together, certain that a faithful hand will take and sift them, keep what is worth keeping, and then with a breath of kindness, blow the rest away. Just reading these words, I feel both gratitude and longing in my heart. Longing to feel safe, assured of my belonging in the world. And this desire to express myself without filters and be seen and heard and loved by those close to me. I experience gratitude that I am beloved by my loved ones when I remember to reach out and connect. My challenge is to remember to reach out when I start to slide into depression so I can subvert it. Now, knowing and remembering what is important to us is crucial. And last year during the coffee shop tour, I interviewed people about what they wanted for their future life. The dreams and stories shared with me were as unique as the people who shared them. But underneath all of these complex story details, 3 similar themes emerged. I call these the 3 C's. The first one is every person wants to feel deeply connected to those they love. The second is every person wants to be part of a community where they can be themselves and feel a sense of belonging. And third and last, every person I've interviewed wants to contribute something to the people and the community around them. So a few days ago, I met a new friend for coffee, and we're both coaches. We're setting up new programs and recruiting clients. And as we discussed offers and what is needed, she reminded me of the loneliness epidemic. And this was declared by the Surgeon General of the United States in May of 2023. We have become more separated from each other over several decades. And I've seen many different analyses of how this has happened. Here's a short list. This is just off the top of my head. The most interesting one I found was this theory about garage dominant architecture. It's also called snout architecture. And this is where we have built our houses with garages first, what you see mostly from the street, so that when we get home from work, we drive into the garage, we close the garage door, and we don't leave our house again. We don't socialize with our neighbors as a result. Now, related to this one is new. I just saw this one yesterday, is this idea that air conditioning has somehow held us inside our homes where it's comfortable instead of us going outside where it might be hot. Where in the pre-air conditioning days, we used to go sit on our big front porches to catch the evening breeze. And that was when a lot of socializing would happen. This next one you're going to be familiar with. It's kind of the overall increase of smartphones and video game use, which has led to a lack of social skills. We want to stay comfortable behind our devices because that's where we're safe. Another thing I've heard that causes us to feel lonely is actually streaming entertainment. How much easier is it to sit down and watch Netflix instead of go to a community meeting? Guilty of that one. This next one is we have seen a fracture of our relationships due to trauma and disagreements and political beliefs. There is an increased awareness of trauma right now, and we're still trying to heal that and navigate what do we do with the trauma. Another reason that I've heard cited about this increase in loneliness is that because of a higher cost of living and a lack of affordable housing, we have less social time because we're too busy working all of our jobs. And when we're done working, we're too exhausted to socialize. And then this last one, I haven't actually read about, but I have observed it. And that is there's been over the last, I want to say 20, maybe 30 years, a dramatic increase in chronic health conditions. And often people with chronic health conditions who are suffering physical discomfort relentlessly often isolate themselves and no one checks in on them. And so they are isolated from society and it really feels like no one cares. So think about who you know in your life or you yourself, what you could do to reach out to folks with chronic health conditions. I'm sure there are more researchers coming up with reasons why we are more lonely now. But regardless of the story about how we became a lonely society, how will we connect or reconnect with our loved ones? How do we make and nurture our friends? So before writing this essay, my attention was captured by this article in Time about how to rebuild a broken friendship. Now, the article itself focuses on lost friendships and offers really good tips based on the circumstance of the fracture. For me, the late John Lewis really summed up my criteria for friendship. Everyone is welcomed who welcomes everyone. And my friends are really precious to me. They are too precious to throw away because of politics or moving or new interests. My question for you is, what is your criteria for friendship? And does it need a tune-up? Most of us believe that we know how to relate to others and we value our close relationships. And then we give ourselves higher marks than we likely deserve for knowing how to relate to others. Yet the loneliness epidemic would indicate that we are not as skilled as we believe. Luckily, we can learn new skills and we can try them out and we can adopt those that work. The aforementioned coaching program that I'm developing includes options to help you learn new skills for relationship tending. So if you have lost touch with loved ones and you miss them, there is a path to a healthy relationship. There are free and paid options available at americanfuture.us/programs. That's americanfuture.us/programs. I am grateful for your friendship, for your listenership. And I'd like to end this podcast with an invitation for you. Just think about your happy place for a minute and picture yourself there with your best friend. The invitation is to spend 5 minutes every day being in your happy place, thinking about your friends and your gratitude for them. After 5 minutes is up, reach out and let them know you were thinking about them and see what happens. Feel how connected you can become just by this simple act of thinking about a friend with gratitude and then reaching out. If you add awe and wonder in your 5 minutes, thinking about this crazy, wonderful, mysterious life and how we get to be friends, neuroscience will take over and you will begin to subconsciously create the life and relationships you prefer. In closing today's show, I'd like to thank you, the listeners, for giving a damn about our nation. We may be a terrified nation today, a separate terrified nation today, but we can do better. We can become the friends we are meant to be. And then we can save the USA. We're in this together. Join me next time.
So that's it for today's episode of Terrified Nation. Head on over to iTunes or wherever you listen to subscribe to the show. You can get advance notice of new episodes and bonus content by signing up. Head over to terrifiednation.com and join us on the next episode.